I'm Steve Cleary. I'm the founder and director of Revelation Media. We've been working on a cool project called iBible, and this morning I want to share a little bit more with that with you as we get our PowerPoint presentation set up. Okay, I do have 5 goals for the next hour. I was told I have 57 minutes. If you guys ever listen to a podcast and you put it on like 1.5, so this morning I'm going to be on like 1.7. And so if I talk too fast, I apologize. But we have a Jeopardy quiz. We're going to let somebody win millions of fake dollars. I'm going to challenge you to consider how you can impact the world. Small goal. I'm going to list your help in a very special way, which I'm very excited about. We're praying one person in this room would join our team, join our new internship program, which hopefully I'll be able to talk about. And if we have time, we'll share what's coming next. But let's start with our Jeopardy quiz. Now, please, we're going to do this very orderly. Just shout the answer. If you know it, even better. But keep track of what you know in your head, okay? Because I want to know how many you get right. Final Jeopardy. Okay, that was great. How many got all the questions right?
Welcome to the Christian Worldview Film Festival. I am Alex Trebek. This morning's categories are inventions. Then we have by the numbers. Next, by the numbers double jeopardy, followed by words that begin with the letter B and end with the letters I-B-L-E. Let's begin.
Okay, so you can see millions of dollars up there. In the 4th category, it's going to be tough. Okay, inventions. Here we go. In 1440, this invention was created in Mainz, Germany by Manuel Hannes. Gutenberg Press. Great. On January 1st of 1983, this was officially launched, not by Al Gore. Guys are flying. In 1992, IBM announced the first one of these. Smartphone, not the iPhone. Steve Jobs is rolling in his grave. On February 14, 2005, not because of Valentine's Day, 3 former employees of PayPal invented this. So I think I heard it over here. Someone say YouTube? In 1928, this short film was released featuring a mouse and became a landmark in the history of animation. Steamboat Willie. Anybody here from 1928? Steamboat Willie. All right, let's go by the numbers. The number of Bibles printed every year. We say 100 million. The number of Bibles printed since 1440. Remember that date from the printing press? Do I hear a number? 2 million? 2 million? We just printed 100 million last year. 5 to 7 billion. A lot of Bibles. The number of YouTube views per day. Who added to that this morning? All right, so my number's off by 56. 1 billion. Remember that number, 1 billion. The number of smartphones in the world today. 3 million, 6 billion, 7 billion. 7 billion. People who do not have a bank account, do not have a bathroom, have a smartphone. The number of people who die every day without having access to the gospel. 66,000. 40% of the daily deaths. All right, we're going into double jeopardy. The total number of languages in the world? 7,000. Heard some lower numbers. The number of languages that have a complete Bible? 3,000. 736. We seeing the number? Are we seeing a pattern? The percent of the world that learns orally? Now, I have a contention with this because I always say that, why do we say the percentage of the world that learns orally? Why don't we say the percentage of the world that learns visually, right? I mean, to me, that's 100% unless you're sight impaired. But orally is 80+%. Huge number. The number of languages that have a complete audio Bible. Okay, remember 80% plus orally. How many languages have a complete Bible audio, oral? 100. It's actually less than 100. The number of unwritten languages. So of the 7,000, 3,500 are unwritten, and 3,500 are written, approximately. It's an easy way to remember it. The number of unwritten languages that have a complete oral translation. 10. 15. 0. All right, we're going into the most difficult category. For the $1 million, words that begin with B and end with I-B-L-E. This book, hey, you haven't even heard the question yet. Have you ever seen somebody on Jeopardy like, I know they got to hear the question as part of the TV show. This book contains 66 books, not 4 Gospels, not 27 of the second part, but 66. What is it? All right. This book contains the history of the world. You guys are unbelievable. I don't know who wrote this, but they weren't very tough. This book contains God's plan to restore his perfect creation. All right, this one's harder. I'm going to prepare. This book is the most printed book in history. There's 7 billion, right? I guess I gave you the answer earlier. While being the most read, printed, translated ever, a book containing the entire history of the entire world, God's perfect plan to redeem and restore mankind, this book has never been fully animated. The Bible. If it's that critical, if we learn by sight and audio, why hasn't it ever been translated? So, all right, Final Jeopardy. You guys should. Who's gonna go all in? Wait a minute. I think that's a He Gets Us campaign. Sorry. Who's gonna put it all? This will launch Easter Sunday, a couple weeks, has the potential to transform how people engage in the Bible. iBible. All right, we got it right. And Moses is happy. Okay. I want you to think of all these numbers for a minute. Some people say I'm smart. Seriously. 2, my wife and my mother. I always say no, but, I'm probably smarter than 30% of the people my age. So some days I feel smarter than 31%, but that may be pushing it. But looking at all this, you have to ask yourself some questions. Interesting, on my phone yesterday, I got from a major Bible organization, they said that nearly everybody in the world who can read, who can understand a Bible, could reach up on their shelf and they could pull a Bible off, a printed Bible off. That statement is relatively true. Now, unless you live in places like Iran, or a place where you can't get a Bible and the church is exploding, you have access to a Bible. Remember, most printed book in history, 7 billion, right? Remember, by the numbers Jeopardy quiz. You have access to a Bible. Then they ask the question, having access to the Bible, why is Bible engagement going down among the Western world? And it's going down fast. It's not going down a little bit. Some is like 20, 30% decline in the last few years. And so you ask yourself, what if? I remember asking myself, what if? And this is our case statement. somebody told me if we're going to do iBible, we need to print a case statement for people to know what this project is. And they said it has to be compelling. So I called it a compelling case for iBible. So if you can steal that. To me, that was the best way to make it compelling. We say, what if there was a visual presentation of the entire story of God's Word? What if it was presented as one cohesive chronological story? What if it was visually stunning and easy to translate into any language of the world? And what if it was available on devices people already own? It just seemed like simple questions. It seemed like something that would make sense to us. And when we first wrote the case statement, there were 5 billion of these. And then just in the time of going through all this process in the last couple of years, we recheck our numbers and it's grown to 7 billion. I mean, it is just crazy, and what God has given us. So right now we spend money on text first. We spent that 100 million printed Bibles a year cost 500 million in just printing alone, not including distribution, translation licenses, everything else that's just printing it, $500 million a year. And then some money goes to audio, but remember, there's only 100 complete. I'm talking, to me, the gospel doesn't start at Christmas and end at Easter. It starts in Genesis, right? And it completes when Christ returns, and as revealed in the book of Revelation. And so, but we spend 90+% of all resources in the West on text, and then we go to audio, and then we go to visual. And visual gets just a tiny percentage. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're going to say, well, Steve, you're preaching to the choir. Well, I like preaching to the choir because they don't disagree with me. So I'll preach to the choir. So we learn by visual, audio, text. And that's the premise. It's like, how do we flip this upside down? I was recently in Africa, and we were in a city, and we were sharing with some people, and somebody said, people in the city have smartphones, but people in the village don't, in the countryside in Africa. And the man I was with, he's a very smart man named Ishmael, and he was my host, and he said, my research says differently. He says, my research says 65% of people, even in the poor villages, have a cell phone or a smartphone or have access to one. So he did something kind of cool. It was unexpected. We kind of canceled some meetings, and we drove 100 miles out of the city, which is like a day's drive in Africa, and to a poor village. He knew a pastor. He said, would you show a couple episodes of iBible and invite people in? And so here is the picture. The church is full, but it's a small church. These are some teens outside looking in, and we had asked them, we said, there were 6 of them, and we said, how many of you have a cell phone? And 3 of them pulled out a smartphone. And then we asked the other 3, we said, well, you don't have one. They said, no. 2 of them used their parents, and 1 of them used their grandparents. And we said, every day? And they said, every day. We said, what do you do with these phones every day? And the number 1 thing was watch videos, TikTok. If you're in Africa, it's TikTok is really exploding there. They all watch videos on their phone every day. And I was thinking about this perception. Now, the person who said that the people in the villages didn't have phones, he was right maybe a year ago or maybe even 6 months ago. Because we asked the kids, we said, how long have you had your phone? Well, one kid had just gotten his phone and wanted our help figuring out how to use it. It was very new. It was very new to them that they all had access to a phone. And then one of my favorite signs I've ever seen in a church. So everybody left. We went inside the church. We thanked the pastor. And this sign was in the church. I want you to see the irony of this. This sign is on a wall made of cow dung. And there were 4 of them. This church was no bigger than one section of this church. Like this section, that's how big this church was. It was the old, it's typical. If you've traveled on the mission field, it was the old wooden benches, and there was some shutters on the outside and a thatch, roof, and the walls were made of mud and cow dung. And this sign was hanging, 4 of them, in the church. I don't know why they needed 4, but 4 of these signs were hanging in the church. This reminds me, I don't think I silenced my phone. It's silent now, thankfully. So I just thought this was really awesome. So we took this whole concept of what if a number of years ago. Now, if anybody here, I shared 6 years ago here, and we shared the vision. It was called the Animated Bible Series. We had done a little clip on Revelation. It's where we actually got the name of the ministry, Revelation Media. We were playing around with, it was kind of really fun to animate, Revelation, harlots and dragons and destruction and all the fun things to animate. So we put together some little clips and we shared it. And 6 years ago, it was really a dream. Does anybody remember that? You're probably all too young. Okay, a few people. And then 3 years ago, I shared, and I couldn't believe Philip told me he remembered what I shared 3 years ago. The 3 points I shared 3 years ago. Is anybody here? It was a real encouraging sermon. It was, you're not as good as you think you are. Dreams don't come true and you all die. So it's out there somewhere, and I didn't know if I'd ever come back, but I thought maybe if they forgot it. So we put the dream together, and so this place is very special for me. We've shared more kind of personal, I've shared more personal stuff, and I've shared my personal testimony last 3 years ago. And this whole dream of what iBible could be. Watch this short video with me, please.
2,000 years after Jesus instructed us to go to the ends of the earth and preach the gospel, much of the world is still starving for access to the entire Bible in a language they can understand. The vast majority of unreached people groups cannot read. Up to 70% of children in developing nations cannot comprehend simple text. And 9 out of 10 children worldwide prefer visual over text-based learning. It is no wonder that people around the world, young and old, spend nearly 4 hours a day on their phones. While much has been accomplished in both Bible translation and distribution, the simple fact is the Bible in print form is no longer the only answer. So what if there was a visual translation of the entire story of the Bible from Genesis to Revelation in the words in which it was written and in the order it was lived? And what if it was visually stunning and easy to translate into every known language on earth, accelerating access to all unreached people groups? And what if it was available for free on devices people already own? With smartphones now in the hands of nearly 90% of the world's population, every nation, every tribe, every people group is more connected and accessible than ever before. From creation to the fall, from the kings to the prophets, to the coming of Christ and his final revelation, the time has come for iBible, a visual Bible for a visual and connected world.